Hello, welcome to the Better Together podcast. We're so excited to have you again here this week. We're going to have another phenomenal conversation today. Today, I'm interviewing Linda Coppess, the CEO of the Coeur d'Alene Regional Chamber of Commerce. Linda is another one of those people that just, I don't know anyone that has a bigger heart that cares more about people than Linda in our community. Linda has served as the CEO for several years in the chamber. She's really focused on the future. How do we bring more people into the chamber, and how do we build community? So our conversation today is really going to focus on that. We're going to talk about building community, what it's like to be a leader when times get hard, and the power of relationships as we build community. So listen, I know that you are going to just enjoy this episode. We're going to have a great conversation. So come along this journey with us, and we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. All right. Well, listen, like I said in the introduction, we're so excited to have Linda Coppess here today. We're going to have a great conversation about the Chamber of Commerce, how that connects with community and builds community, and kind of that intersection between business and healthcare and all of the things that are rolling. So, Linda, thank you so much for being here today. Why don't you just give us a little overview of the Linda Coppess, the amazing Linda, and how you ended up in this role?
Well, I think it just really started. It's a combination, really, of purpose, of passion, of experience, and just timing, if you will. So I was born and raised here, so Coeur d'Alene High School graduate, and as a young 18-year-old was excited to see the world, and I went off to Seattle to the University of Washington and studied business at the Foster School of Business. And afterward, my plan was always to come back home. But at the time where we were in the early 90s, Coeur d'Alene didn't offer the kind of job that I was looking for. I really had a passion. I wanted to see the world. And so it was just time for me to spread my wings. And so I was very fortunate. Out of college, a couple years after college, I was hired at Microsoft, and I had an incredible career. Spent 24 years at one of the world's leading, software technology companies, and just had very different jobs in sales and marketing, all different kinds. And really, it was through that experience that I got to see just great platform for leadership, for how organizations work. And I just had a blast. I learned a ton from it. Back in 2018, I went through a couple of personal challenges with a friend of mine passed away, and my mom was diagnosed with cancer. And I just knew, it was time for me to come home. So I came back home, took about a year off, and then a friend of mine was saying, okay, you keep saying you want to get back involved, it's time. What are you going to do? And there happened to be an opportunity at the Chamber of Commerce. And what I think really drew me in about the Chamber of Commerce was just this idea that it was a convener, and it was very much about community. And so it had such an awesome opportunity for me to blend my business experience and use maybe the skills and all the things that I learned at Microsoft right here in our own community. And as a nonprofit organization, what appealed to me so much was, at the time I was turning 50, and I was thinking, gosh, I really want to make my second act count. And so what kind of position or role could I take that was about giving back? And this chamber position had just the most awesome blend of all of that. And I started in 2020, and I've never looked back. And it's just been an incredible adventure.
Well, our community is so lucky to have you in this role. For those of you that haven't ever seen Linda in action, we were working on a project last night, this next gen project, trying to integrate younger people into the chambers and into the community. I had the opportunity to just watch Linda teach. I interact with Linda in lots of ways, and Linda always has a huge heart, and she's somebody that definitely is you're this convener. I love that word for you. But watching you up there teaching these skills about networking and guiding people through an experience that they left learning, so they had new knowledge and they were so excited about it. Like, it's just fun to see that other side of you. Because I think that's how you build community. We all have different talents. We've talked on this podcast before. Everybody has a mask. Everybody's struggling with things. Like, we're trying to just have these real experiences and build community. And I think that a chamber of commerce, many people may not know, like, what is a chamber of commerce?
That was me when I first came here. I was like, I don't understand why they exist in the world today.
So what's chamber of commerce, Linda? What's the purpose, and why would anyone think about joining a chamber of commerce?
Right. It's a question that I ask myself every single day, and I have, since I've been home, which honestly, I think that makes me really great for this role, because I know a lot of, especially as our population ages, a lot of younger, more tech-savvy business people, don't understand the role a chamber of commerce can play and how it could impact their business. And so being one of those people that really didn't understand that, I think has been helpful, because, you very well know, as being an amazing board member of our organization, we are in this journey. I would say when I first started, and I my history is you use data to drive decisions. So my first, probably 2 months on the job, I went on this listening tour, and I was interviewing chamber members, non-chamber members, past chamber members, and just trying to understand, what do people think of not just chambers in general, but our organization. And, what are we doing well? What are we not doing? What is a gap that they would love to see a chamber organization doing to help them in their business community? And being able to just absorb all of that information and take it and kind of map our transformational journey. What I realized is, chambers have played an incredible role in our country. They are a convener. They advocate for pro-business and economic vitality. They create platforms and bring people together to build relationships to impact business and to impact quality and the way of life. I don't think that will ever change. That is a number one thing that everybody sees that chambers do, and there's value in that. I think the challenge is, a decade ago, I look at Microsoft and my experience there, the introduction of the computer and then the internet, with access to this whole digital ecosystem has made our world much smaller, and people, part of my challenge was thinking, well, gosh, a business could open a Facebook page or, be on Google My Business and, really dip their toe in social media and digital marketing, and they could grow quickly. And their reach is extended because there's no geographical limits, to your local community. And so again, I was thinking to myself, well, one of the things that, people don't understand is the importance that a chamber of commerce can play in creating and building relationships in a community. And so I just go back to connection. Connection's the number one word that anybody uses when they think of a chamber of commerce, but it's so much more than that too. It's about advocacy and working to make sure that, our lawmakers at the, even at the city, at the county, at the state level are creating laws and creating pathways for economic success. So I think that's a big role that we play. And collectively, when we focus on those things, what we're really doing is serving the community.
Yeah.
I think about every day, the business community is not just businesses, not just, establishments that are making money or serving a purpose. They are a collection of individual people who've chosen to live, who've chosen to work here in our area. And so much of our responsibility, it bleeds beyond the business, and into actually our community and our way of life. So all of those things are top of mind. And really what we do is we bring people together. We have a platform to help people build connections and build long-term relations, which then in turn help their business grow. Help then in turn, if collectively there's an issue, we work together to lend our voice to the people making those decisions in government positions to help make a change for our business community.
Oh, it's such an incredible resource for the community. As you were talking, I was thinking about, how easy it is to actually live in a community but not be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that happens. And, the last several years have been, they've just been really challenging across the country, across the world. There's been lots of things everybody's facing. But I think, as we've talked before on the podcast, that loneliness epidemic that's here, I think it inhibits communities from growing to that. I think people do have this idea of this magic time before in the past where, you showed up and your community had a parade and you did fireworks together and you celebrated and came together. And oh my gosh, that happens in Coeur d'Alene.
It does.
You can have community, but it takes these institutions to bring them together. And then it also takes all the people that have built the community in the past. What I have loved about the relationships I've formed from my chamber connections is just I've made lifelong friends, and I feel welcome everywhere I go. And I know that if I have a problem, I can call anyone on that list, and they're there to help. And I think that's what community is.
I agree.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
I think about some of your words. You talk about isolation, and technology can be a wonderful tool to help us be more efficient and to do more things and to have access to more information to make us better people. But there's also a dark side to technology, and I think one of the things that has happened is people feel, especially, well, I was going to say I've traveled all over the world, and you see something different when you go to developing countries, and maybe technology is not at the heart of that. They still have community where people interact, and you feel so just supported and a part of something bigger than just you. In our country, I feel like people are so reliant on technology and so on our phones all the time. And if you think about, you go home after a busy day and the first thing that people usually do is just sit down and get on their phone and start doom scrolling or, get lost in some sort of binge watching, a streaming show or something like that, because it takes you out of, the stress and the pressures of the world that you're in. But the outcome of that is it makes us so much more isolated, right? And so you have so many people, and then with the divisiveness happening, it's even worse. Your people are walking around as individuals, and I don't think there's ever been a need more for us to join together in community. And to your point, I every time we have, 2 days ago, we had our Breakfast Connect. And it is phenomenal to walk into a room and to be standing on that platform and to look out into a sea of 150 people and to know almost every person by name, and not just to know them by name, but to know information about, their marriage or their children or where they live or some of the challenges or things that are facing in their life. It reminds us the importance of being connected and being together and in one another's lives.
No, I think it's so powerful. You talked about sort of the division in community, and I think it's really interesting to reflect. Like when I'm on social media, the world feels like it's falling apart. It's on fire, and everybody hates each other. And then you go to a chamber event, you go to a school event, you go to like anywhere. And that in that room, not everybody voted for the same person. Not everybody thinks. But have we ever? I think I've never had a fight break out like you see on social media at a chamber event. It's like honestly, you respect each other as a community. I think our community is a lot stronger than we think it is. It's definitely the division is a big deal, and we have to find ways to have better civil discourse. Like at the end of the day, I think everybody's worried about their kids, worried about their jobs. Right. There's financial strain, there's community strain, there's health concerns. By the time you unpack all of those things, we're probably 90%, we have 90% in common and, even greater. And then all of a sudden there may be a couple hot button issues that maybe we don't see eye to eye on. And all of a sudden people hate each other for that versus like recognizing the humanity and everything that's there. And I think that's what you get when you're part of a group, you're part of something. And the chamber is such a great resource for that.
It absolutely is. It kind of reminds me of, I was a kid growing up in the 70s, and in our neighborhood, we were out till late. No, my mom didn't know where we were at which neighborhood house, but our neighbors took care of us, and it didn't matter. Nobody even knew if somebody was red or blue. They had no idea. It's just you were part of the neighborhood. And I feel like in our chamber organization, it feels a lot like that. You start with the relationships and the connections and the people as people, right? And that we're all trying to serve the community, get together. We're all trying to run our businesses. We're all trying to take care of our employees, all of those things. And the rest, it just kind of fades into the background. And it gives you that sense of belonging. And I was trying to think, one of our board members, we had our new board member orientation a week ago for our new board members that joined this year. And we always go around the room and talk about, what are your top 3 wishes or goals or things that you'd like to see us accomplish in the next year. And that helps me keep my finger on the pulse of our board of directors and make sure that we are moving in the direction that, our bosses are our community, because our board members are members of the chamber and reflect our community. But one of the concepts was the third place. And she was talking about, number one, all of us, in our life, our first place is our family and our faith. That always comes number one in our lives. And then secondly, maybe it's our workplace, because gosh, we spend enough time in our offices with the people there. But her goal was, how can the chamber become that third place, which is really another word for community. How can we become a community that is very interconnected and helpful and supportive to one another? And it just warmed my heart. I loved that analogy, and it's definitely on my radar. And in many ways, I feel like that's what we have, and I just want to continue to do that more.
I love that. I mean, just finding that extra place where you feel safe. I think nothing screams community more than a place where you feel safe, you feel connected, like the cheer song, where everybody knows your name.
Right.
Just kind of walking in and it's just like, hello, I'm home. And I think that's such an important part of the human experience, and then just being part of community. Our community struggled with lots of things. What are the things that, as a business owner, what are things that are sort of front of mind for businesses in our community right now? They're coming to you saying, hey, I'm worried about X, Y, and Z. I'm going to have a list, but
right. There are so many. So first one, I would say, like, workforce development challenges. We are facing a lot of competition just right across the state line in Washington. They pay higher, maybe have better benefits. And so, attracting and being able to retain our workforce has been an issue. And we need to figure out how to tackle that. Along that same lines, it's not just about how do we attract and retain them, but it's also like there's been a shift, as our population is growing. You see more industry coming to Coeur d'Alene area, and a lot of those new industries are bringing new jobs, and jobs that don't necessarily have the same skills that our population has. So there's a bit of a gap in terms of what the need is for the workforce and what our capabilities are today. And so there's definitely challenges we need to tackle on the workforce side of things. The increasing growth has, as you know, massively impacted our housing market. And so we have so many young people that want to stay here, and people who are maybe more entry-level jobs, but they can't afford to live here. So we're in a crisis mode. Like, how are we going to help solve that? And, the chamber is not leading that effort. There's so many community partners and individuals that are coming up with really creative solutions to help solve that challenge. But bottom line is if we want to have a workforce, we need to make sure that they can afford and attain home ownership and to be able to live here and raise their families here. I would say childcare. Childcare is a big issue. That is a problem because we don't have a lot of childcare. So it's two things. It's access to childcare for young families. And then in addition to that, it's access to affordable
Yeah.
childcare. And so in many cases, you see, a family saying, well, gosh, I'm going to keep one of my parents at home or one of the parents not working because it's more economical for us as a family to keep that person at home raising the children rather than out there in a job because of the massive expense that childcare presents. And so I think that's a big issue. And if we're already struggling with having enough workforce to fill the jobs that are available and then adding the childcare issue on top of it, right there, you're taking away many people that could be productive workforce, in our community. So childcare has been an issue. I think healthcare. I mean, you see this all the time. So, access to affordable healthcare is a big problem in our community. You have a lot of families that are legacy families that have lived here for a long time. Then again, I'm talking about these are people that maybe don't have the same skills as some of the new businesses coming in, right? So you're in a situation where we have the skills issue, but then we also have the access to the health care. And so if they don't have the skills, maybe they're not going to qualify for the higher paying jobs or the jobs that provide health care as an option. And so I think that is a huge risk. And I know you see this every day because that's your industry. But in the economy, in the workforce, if we don't have healthy employees, then that means they're staying at home more, right? And their productivity is limited. And so what our businesses are producing is lower.
Right.
So healthcare is a big challenge that we're facing. I think infrastructure is something that we see all the time. Our community is growing. And so how are we able to keep up with that growth with infrastructure, roadways, just even like the tax base too, to support that growth. So there's just so many issues that our business community is facing. It really requires all of us to come together and lean in and work together with our government officials to find solutions that work.
No, I really like how you said, I mean, it's not the chamber's like primary function to solve these problems, but
No.
again, the magic of the chambers is like to bring people together, collective energy. I mean, we've seen some really cool projects over the last few years that are starting to address these things. And all that comes with when people are in the room talking, problem solving together. I
Right.
think it's a really great way to solve community problems because it takes a village. It really does.
It really does. And I think one of the things that I've learned so much, never more than in this job, is how having diverse perspectives can really drive change. I think it's a safe space to go and hang out and be around people who think like you, right? But when you are open your mind and you are willing to allow a different perspective in, it changes things. I think I'm a woman of faith, and I believe that God created us with unique skills and abilities. And I think it's our responsibility as human beings to find out what those are and to lend them to the greater good of our communities. And I think it's really powerful when you get multiple people together with different perspectives, because the world that we live in isn't just one shade.
Yeah.
We live in community together, and it's important to consider, all perspectives in order to find the right solution. So I'm a big fan of that. And I see it every single day through the programs that we run, Executive Roundtable. How fun is that? We have people who come together. These are C-suite leaders who come together once a month to have real discussions about a lot of these issues we're talking about, that impact our community. And we don't always agree. I mean, there's many times we don't agree, but what we do know is everybody's coming together with the intention to problem solve and to make this a better place to work and a better place to live.
Yeah. Well, and it's like we don't leave in a brawl after
No.
a disagreement. I mean, it's like you build relationships, you start to respect people more. And I like it that, you get to open your mind. I like understanding the perspective of somebody that thinks differently than I do. And I think the answers, I'm a middle of the road person. So the answers are generally in the middle when you're looking at big, hairy problems. Living on the extremes, I think it just polarizes things and makes it harder. But, again, I think that's that convening role of the chamber, just provide opportunities for relationships. My favorite memories growing up it was all about the end of summer party at my parents' house on the front porch with the ice cream party. And, you think about the Chamber of Commerce. I mean, you do have a beautiful porch right on the lake.
We do.
And, but all of the events, it's all about bringing people together. And just like last night you talked about in your networking class about starting with how can I help someone versus what can I get from you?
Yes.
In that. And I think, really having that mentality as a community, like, how can I help you? Like, yes, I'm going to need help. And, I know that it will come.
Right.
But if I'm entering that relationship with this open heart, like, how could I help? And what does that look like? I think it shifts the dynamic, regardless of politics or community or belief, any of that stuff. It's just like, let's just meet heart to heart and figure that out.
Human to human. Yeah.
You've modeled that so well.
Oh,
I
thank
really
you.
appreciate that, Linda.
One of the things we talked a lot about is how, people often think of the chamber as, oh, they're just about networking, and most people, as I mentioned last night in our class, almost everybody in there said it's difficult. It's not easy. It's uncomfortable. And they go into it thinking, oh gosh, well, I'm doing this because I have to get 20 leads for my business, and when you go in there putting yourself at the heart of it and what you need out of it, it becomes a very transactional conversation with the people that you meet. But when you switch that dynamic and you go in there thinking about what do I have that could help the people that I'm meeting, it actually opens the doors to a true relationship. It brings authenticity to the conversation. We also talked about the importance of having an ask, and like being willing to be vulnerable. It's not fun to go into conversation with somebody who just talks all the time, right? And who seems like they have everything put together and knows everything. It's like, where do you go with that? Because I can't relate to that.
Yeah.
I mean, I have so many growth opportunities, and when you open the conversation and you're willing to share even one of the challenges, it opens, the door for them to say, well, gosh, this is a person, they're human, and I think there's something I can do to help. So it just really changes the conversation. And it was so fun to have that opportunity. 40 young professionals sitting in one room. That was pretty special in our beautiful renovated chamber building. And I appreciated so much the engagement. Like, our research last summer when we looked at, what do the young people need? And one of it was just that sense of belonging. It's that feeling of isolation. And when you think about being a young professional, chambers of commerce, typically it's the decision maker or their community relations person that gets engaged. So when somebody enters an organization and they're young, they're not usually the person that gets to go to these types of things. But there's a clear appetite for connection and community with that demographic. And it was really fun to have them there and see them leaning in and, really helping to drive the conversation.
Oh, I love it. I mean, one of my favorite books is Simon Sinek's Infinite Game. And, it talks a lot about building. So from a business perspective, like we should be building businesses that outlast us, right? So
yes.
When I think about Heritage Health, like what's Heritage Health going to look like in 20 years?
Exactly.
Well, I mean, it would be so cool if I was healthy and vibrant enough to be here another 20 years. But at some point, you have to, as leaders, we have to. We want to as well, but we need to invest in the leaders in the organization because they're going to be the people that we hand this off to. And I think that's what's been so great about the Next Gen project and Executive Roundtable. I mean, it's like you're creating all of these opportunities for the torch passing, but also, now integrating those groups together so that there are opportunities just to build real relationships.
Yeah.
And I think that's what sets our community apart. Like it really can focus on this relationship based business climate where we're all struggling, we're vulnerable, we're real. Like,
Right.
I've had a bad week, and you've had a bad week, and great, we still have to show up to work and do our
Right.
thing, and you sort of enter the world with that space, and I think there's something really powerful about that.
What I think is 2 points that are so interesting is one, like just the fact that we had more mentors sign up than we had people sign up for the program. A couple more, but what that, and many of them are CEOs of our largest businesses. Like I sat in that room last week and looked around at the caliber of the leaders that we have who deeply ingrained in their hearts have a desire to give back and to pass that torch and to help, bring that next generation along was so humbling for me. To have more people sign up to want to help. So that says a lot about the character of our business community. That was just an amazing thing. But the other thing too is I think something happens when you are willing to step in and help and serve others. You mentioned, having a bad week. When you step in to help and you're in conversation with somebody that has a need that you can help with, all of that goes away, right? You forget the difficult things that you're faced with, and you enter this world of just, it gives you such an incredible sense of purpose and belonging that you have something that you can help someone. And it just, I don't know if you feel that way, but for me, it helps with my mental health, to know that I'm able to give something, just a little tiny perspective to someone that might really help them solve a major problem or a challenge that they're dealing with.
Yeah, it helps me stuff it down deeper and darker for a little while longer when I get to help someone else. But eventually it comes back up, and I know that like someone's going to be there to help me. And I think
true.
that's that trade-off in relationships and community building. It's like, I'm going to have a bad day today, and you might have one tomorrow, and we're going to balance each other out, and we're going to make it, and we're going to do really cool things. I think the future looks incredible for North Idaho. We have a lot of opportunities coming up. What are some things that you're thinking about, as we think about the future? What are some areas that you think we should focus on now? We listed some of the challenges that are out there, but what are some areas that you want to continue to focus on in your role?
Right. Well, I think, first and foremost, that next gen or young professional category, because part of my research is looking not just at our chamber organization or chambers across the country, because I know I've said this a lot at our events, but, chambers, membership organizations, trade associations, they're shrinking. Ours was shrinking, when I first entered this world. And I think there's just so much choice out there, right, for people to be a part of. But being able to differentiate yourself, and really part of that is you look around the room when even Rotary, we're in Rotary, you look around the room and you see people at the chamber, at Rotary, in any of these civic organizations, and they're typically 40 years or older, so we're really missing that there's a big gap in 20s and 30s. So that will continue to be a big priority, because we are just starting. This is a pilot that we're doing, this next gen program. I'm excited to see what happens over the course of the next 6 months, but we need to figure that out. So that's one big priority. Another big priority is, we talked a little bit before about the change, like the growth that Coeur d'Alene in our area is seeing, and then also the change and increase in different industry that's coming here. We have a lot of people that are working remotely for larger businesses, other places, because of our beautiful natural resources and the lake and all the outdoor playground and opportunities that we have to offer. You also see a lot of companies that are really tech companies coming here that maybe have more of a global audience. And so what keeps me up at night a lot of times is thinking, like, where are those organizations and those people when it comes to community? And you don't see them very often. So I think once we get our next gen thing rolling, I want to shift focus and figure out how can we tap into some of these incredible entrepreneurs and leaders that we have right here in our backyard that we don't, they chose to live here for a reason. And so maybe they look at it like, well, gosh, the local business or the local community isn't my customer, so I don't need to invest in that. But I'm really excited about changing that perception and helping them realize that, no, you chose to live here for a reason, right? And you have these amazing gifts and superpowers that our community needs. So how do we woo you and get you to come and join, our awesome organization that's really making great things happen together in our community? So that will be a big priority. I think always in this business that I'm in is going to be focused on the word relevance, and the world is changing so fast. Every single day something new is happening, and every single year something new is happening. And so if we do not drive change and stay ahead of it, we will not be here in the future. So our board, our number one word that we talk about all the time is relevance, and that is going to be ever changing. And so I think I want to be mindful of that and keeping our finger on the pulse. I think about our core values. Number one, listening intently, right? We want to listen intently to the needs of our community, and then we want to respond generously. So I want our staff, our board, all of us, our committees that we have to work together to think, okay, this is what the information is telling us. Now we need to evolve. We need to create new programs or new offerings, that meet the needs of our community. And then our third one is about leading courageously. I want us to lead the charge. It's sometimes hard to do that, especially when things are uncomfortable. But I'm so proud of our business community for coming together and saying, hey, these things are happening and we need to be at the front of this, and leaning in together to make those things happen. And then, our last one, which is really around connecting authentically. That is kind of something that word connection I mentioned. That is what, if you ask anybody about a chamber of commerce, that is the word that will come up, is that the connections. And I want to continuously be leading and providing new and fun and wonderful opportunities for a platform, for those great relationships and that authenticity to happen. So those are some of the things that I'm looking forward to. I think one, we talked about it a little bit, and I am not an expert and I don't know how to solve it. And it's not just in our community, it's in the world. There's so much more divisiveness happening. And truly, I don't know how to solve it. It feels like it just keeps getting worse and worse, especially on social when algorithms are feeding you, all of the information. What I don't know is how to solve it, but what I do know is that when you break things down to the most basic level and focus on the person and the human being, and realize that we all wake up in the morning, we all brush our teeth, we all have families that we need to take care of, we all have jobs and we need to provide, and money that we need to earn to afford the life that we have. I mean, there are so many things that we have that are similar, and I just hope that we can somehow figure out how to bring our world a little bit more, what you said, is towards the middle, and focus more on the things that we have in common than the things that we have that separate us or divide us.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, we need more campfire and front porch moments.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that's where those real relationships are built. Well, as we work on kind of wrapping up this episode, I have one question I'll wait till the end to ask you, but is there anything else that you wanted to share as you think about the work with the chamber or the communities? I mean, is there anything else you wanted to add into this conversation?
Oh, gosh. Well, just personally, what an honor it is for me. I just wake up every day and I think I had an amazing career at Microsoft and I loved it, but none of it comes even close to how I feel waking up every day. I mentioned it at the events. You walk into those rooms and there are a bunch of people that are all around you that and that hug you, or shake your hand and say great things. And so it is just so humbling for me to be a part of an organization that it's like a warm hug every single day. I'm not saying there aren't challenges and there are hard things that we deal with together as a leadership of the organization, but it is truly something special. And when you have press reporters, or now the managing editor of the press, Bill Bewley, I'm just a big fan of his. And I remember when he first started coming to the chamber, breakfasts and events that we're doing after I took over as CEO, he just kept saying, Linda, there's something happening. There's an energy that you can feel when you're in those rooms. And I've never felt it before. And I don't know. I can't really explain what it is or why it is, but it's something very special. And I'm just honored and humbled and excited to continue to serve the community. And I think, if anything, if there's anybody listening who's not a chamber member, I would just love to invite them to come check us out. You don't have to join, just come see what we're all about. And I think if you come and experience one of those events and, the education that happens through those events, we focus on topics that are important in our community, and we bring, leaders together to hear from. And that energy that happens in the room, people walk away feeling that there is something special and feeling like this is something I need to be a part of.
Oh, it's great. And I think, yes, come test it out. And she says you don't need to join, but you're going to want to join, after you have the experience. And I think, I'll frame it this way. You're going to get out of it what you put into it.
Right.
So we talked about this a little last night, sort of the difference between introverts and extroverts. Like both of us are actually pretty introverted.
Right.
And, you go to events like this, and it's actually really easy to stand in the shadows. And I've done it long enough. I know that it's not because people hate me. I mean, maybe they do, but I don't think that's the case. But, if I'm not willing to step out and engage in conversation, I could easily leave and go, nobody liked me.
Right.
Well, I never gave anyone a chance to get to know me,
Right.
Engage. And so part of it is, so we always have roles, you as the attendee, you need to show up and give it your all and try. And then anyone else that's in the chamber, just remember, there is that shy person in the corner that it would make their day if you just went up and gave them a handshake and said, hi, I'm Mike.
Absolutely.
How are you doing today? And, come take Linda's class on networking. It's amazing. But that's how we build community. Linda, so I've known you for quite a while as I've lived in the community. You've always been someone that I know that I can count on as a steady rock. And being a leader's hard. It is really hard, when you're in that CEO role. You have to make hard decisions, and it's very lonely. You've been a person that I've been able to talk to when I'm struggling, and I know that others have relied on you. That's a powerful thing. So just thank you for, on the personal side, thanks for being a supporter of me and the work that I do and the work that we do here at Heritage Health. You've always been a big fan. And then just thank you for what you put into the role. Bill was describing the magic. The magic comes because there's a leader in charge that understands how to bring people together and imbue that magic into the event. And I think that just comes out of you naturally. And we're so lucky to have you in that role. And it's been a real honor to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you, Mike.
Linda and I always have great conversations.
Well, I need to say you do the same for me too. I think about a couple of years ago in the 4th of July, and just a couple of times where we've hit some road bumps, and just you're the first person to pick up the phone and call and say, how you doing? Just calling in to check on you. And it means so much, because you're right. It is. And I think for me as a leader, one thing that is so important for all of us to remember, and I say this to myself every day, and is that you're not alone.
Yeah.
Even though you are lonely, it feels lonely because there are hard decisions that you have to make. And sometimes when you're in the process of making them, because of the circumstances, you can't share what's going on.
Yep.
And so, where do you turn to? It's hard. I mean, you are my board member, but you're also my friend. And as my board member, it's hard because I want you to have confidence in me and my ability to make decisions. So am I risking something by talking to you about the struggle that I'm having? That weighs in your mind. Yeah. But I think one of the things that I've learned is that you have to be willing to be vulnerable, and you have to be willing to say, hey, I'm struggling with this. What is your perspective? And in our community and on our board, my goodness, there is not one person on there that would say no, that I don't want to talk to you about that, or would lose confidence in me because of this discussion, because everybody understands as a leader, these are decisions that you can't make lightly. Yeah. They impact people. They impact families, they impact lives. And in my role in this community and in this position at the chamber, it's highly visible. So everybody's watching,
Right.
And so it's just super important to remember that you're not alone and to lean into those friendships. And Mike, you've been that for me too. So thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you.
I
Yeah.
appreciate
I
it.
mean, it is. It's so real. Relationships get deeper, whether they're on the personal or business side, when you share. And it's exhausting to fake it till you make it. And I mean, so many people just give up. Like, it's exhausting. Like, we have all had days where we've had to fake it, right? But then you go home and you're like, that was terrible.
Right.
I can't do that my whole life. Like, I
Right.
want to be able to say, I'm really struggling with this decision right now, or politics right now are really weighing down my soul, and
Yes.
like being able to just go have a beer with somebody and just talk and relax and like get that out. I think it clears it up, and I think there's lots of ways to develop those relationships, but I think this is what you get when you join the Chamber of Commerce. You have this opportunity to connect with people that are struggling just like you,
Right.
and pretty genuine people to say, yeah, I'm struggling too. Let's figure this out together. And I think that's such a cool thing.
It is. And one thing that I learned at Microsoft under our new, he's not so new as the leader, but Satya Nadella, they put you through a lot of growth mindset training classes, and just been phenomenal in helping shift your mind. And how important it is to, like, I learned this phrase, learn it all, be a learn it all. And one thing I know, I go back to my faith, is that as long as I have a breath, God's not done with me yet. And that means that I have the ability to grow and to continue to grow into the person that He created me to be. I'm not done growing. I'm 57 years old, and I need to continue to learn. And so oftentimes when people get in leadership roles, they think, oh gosh, I'm a leader. I have to pretend like I know it all. I have to come to the table and act like a leader, because it's not very leaderly. I don't know if that's a word, but
I love it.
To show up and say, you don't know how to solve this. And for me, there's so many different types of leadership, and, there's no one size fits all. But the type of leadership for me it's about servant leadership, and it's about being authentic and being transparent. And I don't want people to think that I have all the answers.
Yeah.
I want to invite people into the process to help solve those problems. And when you think about our chamber membership, all the time I say that, that is not my chamber. That is every person that pays membership dues to be a part of that incredible community leadership organization. It is their chamber, and that I, in my role, constantly want to try to invite them in to be a part of making the decisions that change our community. Because one thing I do know is when people are invited and they start participating in that process, they take ownership of the organization, and it feels like it's their chamber, and it will feel like it's their community and their third place.
Yep.
Right?
No, I think it really is. It's the secret. And I think we saw that last night at the Next Gen thing. It was, this brand new group of people, first real interaction, and all of a sudden they were in it, owning it.
Could you believe that?
I mean, it's magic.
It started off slow.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, the explosion of participation and perspective, it was so cool.
It was great. So
I loved it.
Lots of great things happening. North Idaho is an incredible place. So
it sure is.
You're thinking about relocating. Some people may say, "Hey, reconsider that." But look, North Idaho's growing. We're going to continue to grow. Come show up. Come be part of the process. Help us build a better community as we go through this. And it's been a really fun conversation.
It has
Linda.
been.
Thank you so much.
You
for
made
making
it so
time.
much easier than I thought.
You mentioned age, but I was going to say happy birthday tomorrow.
Thank you very
this will
much.
air after your birthday. But if you're listening to this, just wish Linda a belated happy birthday. But I hope you have a great time.
Thank
you
Mike.
again for all you do for the community.
And thank you too. This has been really fun.
Great. And then I'll do a little outro here. So that was fun. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode. It was so much fun talking with Linda, hearing about what's happening in our community and the power of a chamber of commerce. So if you're listening to this and you're not a member of a Chamber of Commerce, the Coeur d'Alene Regional Chamber of Commerce, did I get it right?
You got it?
You can always sign up, go to their website. We'll have a link in the show notes. Check it out. But if you're listening from anywhere else, think about the Chamber of Commerce. Find that third place, so that you can have that real authentic place to show up and be you and grow. So anyway, thanks for being here today. Can't wait to talk with you again next week. Be sure to like and follow and share and subscribe and do all those cool things so that more and more people get to hear about this. Thanks for being here and have a great week.